Welcome to this week's edition of the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. I'm Kevin Judah, hanging out with Vincent Charles, Chris Jerry, Afshin Benab, and Stephen Mangas. Gentlemen, let's get started talking about what we enjoy talking about the best and the most, and that is sports. Our show is jam-packed, 30 minutes worth of sports here. The first half is going to deal with the Washington Nationals and, of course, the Masson deal. The second half, a little bit of football. Going to talk about the Washington Redskins, yes, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the Ray Price story, but we're going to handle that from a different perspective. So let's get started talking about those Washington Nationals. They are currently atop of the National League East, and they lead the Atlanta Braves by a few games. Stephen.
Yeah, they lead by, I believe, 10.5 games now. It's a pretty good distance that they've gotten. In about the next week or so, they could be able to close it up and seal the deal and clinch the National League East. It's looking like playoffs are definitely in the future for the Nationals. That's
right. You just said it. If they can continue to win and the numbers look good, they will make it to postseason play. Afshin.
Yeah, they are. They have a series coming up with Atlanta. I think win a couple of those games and it is over. And they will finish. Should they win 2 out of those 3, then they will finish. They will gain the playoffs or get the National League East earlier than they did 2 years ago when they made it to the playoffs. And of course, we know what happened with that debacle against the St. Louis Cardinals. So hopefully things will be different this year. Things will be a little bit different this year. But they've played well. They've played basically lights out baseball, all things considered, with some problems among the pitching staff. Lights out baseball pretty much the last couple of months.
All right, let's segue over, Chris, and to talk about the pitching staff. They have made some wholesale changes, noticeably to Rafael Soriano. They shut him down a little bit because he was having pitching issues.
Yeah, he was having issues, and I think I speak for all Nats fans that were glad that they made that move. Rafael, really, the first half of the season, he did a really good job for the team, but he's really struggled after the All-Star break. And so now they've kind of put Drew Storen into that closer role, and so far, so good. He's done a real good job, and I think going forward, that's who's going to be the closer going into the playoffs.
All right. We want to remind everyone that you're watching the Nation's Capital Sports Show via AIM on Comcast 69 and Files 38. I'm Kevin Jeter, along with Vincent Charles, Chris Jerry, Afshin Benab, and Stephen Mangas. Vincent.
As far as Soriano goes, it's a case of what have you done for me lately, like that is in all Major League sports. And he has not had a good second half. So far, I give Storen the upper hand.
Yeah. And you got to like the way that Strasburg has shown up, albeit he hasn't been getting the run support, but a lot of it has been to his own doing, actually.
It is. Some of it is his from him, and like you said, he hasn't gotten the run support. He is one of the leaders in the National League in strikeouts, and that is a good sign for Steven Strasburg. And getting back to Drew Storen, what a redemption that would be after what happened 2 years ago in that debacle with St. Louis, even, to come back and lead the way among the relief staff for the Washington Nationals as they head into the playoffs. But hopefully Strasburg will be able to turn things around himself and not only lead the league in strikeouts, but he can actually do something in the playoffs when they start.
Playoffs? You're talking playoffs? I'm just hoping we can get a win. But so far, so good with the Washington Nationals. So this is our only show for the month of September. So I'm going to pose this question to you guys a tad bit earlier. Nonetheless, who is your national player of the month? And first, we'll start with Stephen.
All right. Well, since this is a little bit earlier and we're going to have to use a little bit of a crystal ball effect, I'm gonna go with Storen and stick with that and say that he's the player of the month for coming in and fixing the closing staff. Hopefully, he can continue to close well and make that a no-brainer going into the postseason.
Gentlemen, anyone can chime in?
Well, Stephen always steals the person that I'm going to pick. But I do. I like. Yeah, I like the fact that Storen, is really solid, setting up the bullpen down the stretch. So he would be my guy. I guess if I had to pick any one other player, I really like. Gee, who would I like coming out there? I mean, Desmond has been sharp. I've already said Span earlier, so you know what? I'll just stick with Storen.
All right.
I go with Denard Span because he continues to be a catalyst, Kevin. He's batting over 300 right now, and he's getting the multi-hit games, and he's really had a great second half. Although Jason Worth would get a top second for me.
All right. Well, Vincent, you're looking very snazzy in that jersey. Afshin, last but not least, man.
I'll tell you what, Kev. I mean, Drew Storen, he hasn't played long enough for me to give him the player of the month. But I'll agree with Vincent on this one. I think Denard Span has gotten on base. He's scored runs. He's gotten the hits when they've needed them. And he would be my player of the month. Maybe my player of the whole year for the Washington Nationals. That's a maybe, but definitely my player of September.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. When we come back next month, we should be in the thick of postseason play with those Washington Nationals. They say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And now we ponder if those intentions were well served by Major League Baseball Commissioner Bud Selig in regards to the massive dispute between the Baltimore Orioles and the Washington Nationals. Afshin.
Yeah, well, they're going to go to court again in December, and they're going to have to figure some things out. I think that they're going to be able to solve this issue. I'm not even quite sure how much, Stephen, you might know, $140 million separates the two, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe something.
It's a big separation between the two, and when they side closer to one side and then the other side does another appeal. And we just get stuck in this appeal circulation of...
What you don't want to get into is litigation with Peter Angelos. That's the one thing you don't want to get into. So they've got to figure something out. Who gets the money and how are they going to divvy it up between the Washington Nationals and the Baltimore Orioles? And let's not forget, Masson, the company itself, is at stake right now.
That's right. The craziest part about this whole deal, Chris, is that allegedly Bud Selig went ahead and promised Peter Angelos one thing and then went back and told the Nationals and promised them something else. Kind of hanky there, so to speak.
Well, it just kind of shows you how fluid all kind of TV negotiations went, because the deal when the Nationals came here in 2005 was to give the Nationals a share of Masson up to 33%. It also guaranteed the Orioles something like $350 million on a sale. Now, as you can see what's happened over just these few years, 9 years, the price of a baseball team might run $1 billion. So it kind of shows you how these things work.
And we're going to let Vincent, you're going to have the last word on this real quick, sir.
In order for the Nats to come to Washington, Peter Angelos had to be appeased, okay? Now, the Nationals, they'll get a compromise, but they're certainly not going to get exactly what they want in this deal. The Orioles will probably wind up getting their share and more than their share, according to what the Nats think.
Well, thank you very much, Vincent. All right, so this is the Nation's Capital Sports Show. I'm Kevin Jeter with Afshin Bernard, Vincent Charles, Chris Sterry, and Stephen Mangas. We're going to be right back, and when we return, we're going to be talking more sports. We're going to be talking football, the Washington Redskins, and then, of course, the Ray Rice or the NFL debacle in regards to that. And we're going to have a Fast and Furious fun segment. This is the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where you can listen to us on TuneIn.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where we are most definitely on. You can like us on Facebook.com/TNCSS. I'm Kevin Jeter with Stephen Mangas, Afshin Bernard, Chris Cherry, and Vincent Charles. Well, gentlemen, let's continue our foray in talking about what we enjoy talking about the best and the most, and that's sports here in the DMV. How about those Washington Redskins winning today, 41-10 against the Jaguars? And quarterback Robert Griffin III suffered an ankle injury. We don't know the extent of that yet, as well as wide receiver Deshaun Jackson. Both went down in the first quarter. We don't know the extent of his injury. Kirk Cousins, as a backup quarterback, he came in and did what he was supposed to do, what he's paid to do, and that is to lead and win the game. And the offense showed up. The defense showed up. The defense had actually 10 sacks, and they matched their record in 1977, the last time in which they broke that. I'm looking at you, Stephen. Perhaps I stole some of your thunder. But nonetheless, how about those Washington Redskins, Afshin?
Yeah, they looked good. Let's remember, they're not playing the juggernaut Seattle Seahawks. They were playing the donut Jacksonville Jaguars. But, when you are a better team talent-wise, on paper at least, that's what you should do to a team like Jacksonville, who absolutely right now have no talent pretty much. And, not only Deshaun Jackson and Robert Griffin III, but Sean Laval got injured, an important piece of the offensive line. Darrell Young, the fullback, the only fullback on the team, he got injured. No one knows what his status is right now. So they have some answers. They have some questions that they're going to have to answer this coming week and probably into the season to see where Robert Griffin III is and how that's going to work out. But right now it looks like Kirk Cousins is the leader of the football team.
That's right. 1-1, Stephen. The Washington Redskins are, and of course, within the next third week, they're going to be playing against Philadelphia, and then at home against the at FedEx Field against the New York Giants.
Yeah, Philadelphia will be a bigger test next week. That's for sure. It's going to be a lot different than Houston and Jacksonville, both teams that were at the bottom of the barrel last year, along with the Redskins. So perhaps this win wasn't that much of a, well, we played a donut, because in the 2013 season the Redskins weren't much more than a donut themselves. But it was a good win for the Redskins. Cousins did look impressive, but he looked like whoever was playing quarterback for the Redskins in that game was probably going to be impressive. The Jaguars had a bit of a Swiss cheese defense going on with their safety out, Jonathan Cyprian. It looked pretty easy to throw the ball against him, and Griffin looked like he was going to light it up until he went out with an injury.
That's right. I like that Swiss cheese. What baloney for the Washington Redskins, Chris, in regards to they did what they were supposed to do. And now let's talk a little bit about the NFC East. It doesn't look that kind of impressive as far as I'm concerned. You have Dallas and you have the Eagles. And so far I've seen them play, and although it's early in the season, I haven't been too impressed with their play.
Well, Redskin fans would definitely say with the Eagles coming up, that's for first place, because they're 1-1, so they certainly could be first place in the division. The Giants really look like they're going to struggle in the NFC East this year. So, it's still wide open, and as the guys were saying about Kirk Cousins, he had a really good game today, and the fact of the matter is, why not? This division could be won with a 9-7 record even. So, I think you've got a good shot in the East. It's not that strong.
That's right. Vincent.
I think it's a bit early to be making those statements about the division. We all know that every division game is crucial. The New York Giants, they seem to always start slow. And don't forget, they have a quarterback named Manning.
But Vincent, they've been starting slow since the last several years, so I don't know how you would explain that, especially in that game that we just saw this past Monday night.
Right.
I don't know what type of crystal ball or wild turkey drink that you're drinking, but nonetheless, I digress.
They've got 2 Super Bowls.
Well, they haven't. Tell me how long they have the last Super Bowls in the last couple of years. I'm going to win this argument because we're going to move on.
It's a little early.
No, it's never too early to make those judgments, and that's what we do here as analyst on the nation's capital sports show. I'm going to let you have the last word on that, young man. All right, let's talk about the Ray Rice incident. Well, we're going to have a different twist to it, as I mentioned before the break. And thanks, Afshin, for providing this segment to us, because, as you know, if you haven't been stunned away in a cellar or a dungeon, you had to hear about Ray Rice. You had to see the video. You had to formulate your own opinion. And I'm quite sure all of us sitting at this table have formulated our own opinions to this in regards to Ray Rice. So let's do this from a different perspective. Now that we saw the videotape, now that we had an opportunity to form our own judgments, let's talk about the management of the NFL. Should NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell step down? Afshin.
In my opinion, I think he absolutely should step down if you go according to the conduct policy that they did not follow through with. Will he step down? No. He's got 32 of the richest people in the country who back him, and no sponsors are pulling out right now. There are a lot of groups, the National Organization for Women, Women's National Network, that have contacted Congress, senators, and congressional members to talk to send letters out to the NFL. That's not what you want to do. If Roger Goodell does step down, you have to go after the sponsors, GM. You have to go after Anheuser-Busch, Gatorade, those guys.
All right.
But I do not think he will step down. He's got 32 of the richest people behind him.
Good point. Stole my thunder. But nonetheless, I'm going to expand on that. 32 of the NFL owners. Those are his boss, Stephen. And so, therefore, when you talk in regards to this, which the question begs to differ, will this element change if major sponsors begin to pull out and say, hey, you need to do something about this?
Like Afshin was saying, I think that's the only way that anything can change is when money gets affected, when the wallet gets affected. Those guys in those situations, when they're atop of the heap, they can pretty much do whatever they want as long as they're still making the money and it's not affected. They can remain at power unless, something I think far worse that Goodell has done himself. Whether or not it really comes out, he's seen the video and how much of a scandal there is interesting, but the whole situation is it's a mess. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Vincent.
I think up to this point, Goodell has been doing a decent job of running the NFL. And I agree with you guys. You have the 32 owners there. They are the power in the league. But in this age of social media, who knows what else is going to come out here.
Right.
But I agree with you guys. Until the bottom line is affected, if you get a lot of advertisers that are pulling out or whatever of the NFL, well then it could have an effect on whether Roger Goodell keeps his job or not. But I think for now, he should keep his job.
When this initially happened, Chris, it was in the beginning of the week, and the NFL was wishing that Sunday couldn't arrive here soon enough to take the focus off of that. But since then, they had another issue that happened. We're not going to talk about that. Let's get your thoughts on it.
Well, I'm with them about the money, but I'm one of those. My position is this. If Goodell didn't see the tape, and I don't think he saw the tape, I don't think he should resign. But somebody, I think, in the NFL who may have seen the tape may have to resign. I don't think it's, if the AP story was true, that the NFL officers and executive got the tape and they saw it and nothing happened. The only thing I can conclude is that Roger Goodell didn't see it. If he did see it, then he has to go.
Well, it's almost like the NFL is a corporation, gentlemen. And and I've worked at many of corporations. I've been in management, but not in top management. But I've seen the way in which management is run. Sometimes upper management is shielded from a lot, you know, and so, but that's no excuse.
No.
You know, so, but the bottom line is, you know, if he didn't see it, you know, potentially someone has to be a scapegoat. Stephen.
Yeah. Well, some head will roll just to appease the public.
Yeah.
Somebody will lose their job. But to me, seeing the tape, everything is not as big of a deal in terms of Ray Rice's situation as it is the cover-up part of the situation. I mean, we knew what happened in the tape regardless if you saw it. Ray Rice admitted to what happened, and there was no question of what took place in the elevator. Seeing it really shouldn't have made a difference on the penalty.
So going forward, there probably should be a lot of policy changes within the NFL hierarchy in regards to their management structure is concerned. I thank you guys for talking about that. This is the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where we're most definitely on tunein.com. All right, let's talk about our next segment, which is Fast and Furious. And this is a fun segment. We have 2 minutes. 2 minutes, gentlemen, my long-winded friends. Although I may be breaking that tie today in terms of being long-winded. I'm going to throw 4 things at you, gentlemen. You can answer as fast as you can. Too bad that Kevin Sampson and Devin Gallagher in the studio don't have a stopwatch or some type of music that we can play during this. But here we go. A, how about those Maryland Terps jerseys? The Star Spangled Banner will appear on the jerseys and helmets. Stephen.
I like it. I like the creativity that's going on with the uniforms, particularly in college football and the different alternate uniforms. Navy had some pretty cool ones to open their season as well. I think it's fun.
Facebook? Well, I was going to say, we can see it on Facebook, Afshin. Go ahead.
Oh, my name is not Facebook.
Yeah, no.
Okay. I actually like it.
Yeah.
I actually liked it better.
Yeah.
Better than what I saw on the internet. But when I saw them playing with them, they're pretty good. Didn't mind it at all.
All right. Chris.
Yeah, they were pretty good. They were so good. Maryland went right out and lost that home game. But yeah, they were creative. I'll give it that.
Vincent.
For tradition, I think it's just a money ploy, just a marketing thing.
Of course.
The more different types of jerseys you have, the more different types of jerseys the fans have to purchase. Exactly. And ching ching.
Ching ching. Ching ching your jersey too, man. We know the story behind that one. All right, the Caps training camp is around the corner.
Yes.
Mr. Capital.
I'm excited. Yeah. It's going to be different. Now we're moving past the kind of player evaluation phase that we had a little bit earlier with the development camp, and now we're going to start seeing how the system's going to be implemented from Barry Trotz's system and who's going to play where in the Capitals lineup. It looks like Alex Ovechkin may be moving back to the left wing where he was before Adam Oates, even though he scored 83 goals on the right side under Adam, but we know he can score from wherever it is, so I think that's more of a how the other guys fit in at right wing or left wing, and then where do you put Alex. But who are the top 6 forwards going to be, and how do the new defenders?
You know, you're taking up 20 seconds, Afshin. Go ahead.
I'm done.
No, I'm glad hockey's just around the corner. Yeah. You know, what Steven said. I know this man is ecstatic because he'll be a Kettler for all the practices. So, yeah, I'm glad it's back. Hockey's in town. Let's go.
All right, Vincent.
Crucial year for the Caps. I'm interested to see how this young rookie Burakovsky can maybe make an impact at center.
Mr. Jerry.
And to be quick, let's go Caps.
All right, Jerry, I love
Rock
that.
the red, baby.
I like you, man. All right. Are you gentlemen sold on whether or not DC United is the real deal, since they have been doing a streak of winning, and they seem to be going to the status quo of coaches Ben Olsen's program? Chris?
Yeah, I think they have shown that they're the best in the East. I don't know if they're the best in Major League Soccer, but definitely best in the East.
Vincent?
Quite a surprise there for real. Chris Pontius is coming back. Okay, he's been injury prone over the last couple of years. They have played well without him. They are going to miss Rolf, but I think they are the real deal.
All right, I was wondering when you were going to wind that down. Absolutely.
I agree. And you mentioned Ben Olsen. I believe he's now the senior coach of all the Washington, D.C. sports teams. I'm not sure about that, but I think they'll be fine in the playoffs.
Thanks a lot for that factoid, man.
I'm not sure.
All right. We'll Google it.
I think these guys have said enough, and I agree with pretty much every statement they made.
All right. And I agree with everything these guys say, too. Although Vincent and I had a little spat back and forth. But we're going to win, and I'm going to win that one every time. All right. So we come to the end of the road with the nation's capital sports show. And it's nice that you guys have always given up your time on a volunteer basis to be here. And our email address is info@tncss.net. You can also watch the Nation's Capital Sports Show right here on AIM via Comcast 69 and Files 38, Sunday at 3 p.m., Monday at 9:30 a.m., and Friday at 9:30 p.m. And actually, we have a lot of folks that are sitting behind in the control room and sitting in front of us that are really the true talent that make us look and sound good.
Always. And of course, you know,
That's
Devin
a Herculean
Gallagher.
task.
That is.
Yeah.
Especially with us five, right?
Yeah.
Devin Gallagher, Kevin Sampson, Patrick McCleary, Rhonda Mendoza, Jackie Barris, Ken Briley, Bill Weisner, Craig Syfax, and Herbert McNair. Thank you guys very much for all you do here on Arlington Independent Media.
And real quick, Vincent made his debut with you calling a high school game.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
He did. He
Roll
called
that B-roll.
Vincent and I did the Langley-Yorktown game, which Yorktown just walloped Langley. And then last week, Chris and I did the Yorktown game against H.D. Woodson from the city. So, and H.D. Woodson, you might want to call it a mild upset, but H.D. Woodson was very good. They beat Yorktown. So,
All right.
good high school football season.
Thank you very much.
It's a good time.
That's right. Good time had by all, and a good time had by us, too. For Vincent Charles, Afshin Bernard, Chris Jerry, and Stephen Mangas. I'm Kevin Jeter. We thank you for watching the Nation's Capital Sports Show. We thank you for listening to the Nation's Capital Sports Show on TuneIn.com. Go out and have a great sporting week and a great sporting day. Take care.